Hammer, Double B, Fully Boudreaux. Welcome back to WrestleDOWN, the discussion of wrestling now, right here on WGS-TV and on twitch.tv/stackup.org. And once again, guys, Stack Up is a charity organization dedicated to helping our great military veterans through the power of gaming. If you guys want more information on what Stack Up does, be sure you visit stackup.org today to find out all the things that Stack Up does, including their great Call to Arms charity that you guys can donate to. Be sure you give them at least a little bit of your money and help them out. Again, it is a great charity and a great organization dedicated to helping our great military veterans. But we have a lot to talk about this week. Boy, oh boy, do we ever. Including AEW's Double or Nothing pay-per-view show. How was it? How did it go? What did we think? We're definitely going to talk a little bit more about that. And how would WWE in particular respond to AEW? And also there was a lot of controversy, including a few things to mention that was said or were done on Raw this past week that definitely got a pop from the crowd and probably made Vince McMahon soil his Depends undergarments. But anyway, before we get to that, I got to introduce a couple of people for you. First off, ladies and gentlemen, you know him as the Studly Man Ashley, who recently celebrated a birthday this past week. So, Ash, happy birthday, and how are you today?
Can we get over the birthday thing? It was like nearly a week ago. The hell?
And ladies and gentlemen, she made her debut on the podcast last week as our outside observer, giving her thoughts on some of the stories and some of the things we're talking about. You know her as the one and the only Miss Kitty. Kitty, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Well, like I said...
Enjoying my day off.
Well, like I said, guys, we have a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. And if you guys want to weigh in here in the Stack Up Live chat room, you can do so in the chat, and we will read it out loud for the sake of the podcast. But, Ashley, AEW's Double or Nothing show was this past week, and the only question I have to ask you is, do you feel that the show lived up to the hype that it was getting?
I mean, as an alternative, yes. As an alternative to the E, I think it delivered probably better than I thought it would. But then at the same time, you know, there were some issues with it. Some of Cody's digs at WWE I felt were a little unnecessary. And some of the booking I'm not entirely happy with. But overall, from top to bottom, I'm happy because it seems like we have credible enough competition to try and make WWE better. Stress the word try, because, dear Lord, WWE's reply to all this was rather lackluster, to say the least. Admittedly, it's hard to say because obviously it's a holiday weekend, so not a lot of people are going to watch because it's holiday and stuff. So, hard to tell.
Exactly, but there are a few things that we could talk about, a few things to bring up here in the news, what I like to call the news section of the part of the podcast. First off, NXT star Rachel Evers reveals that she was involved in a hit-and-run accident. Apparently, from what she has stated, that that she is okay as the car hit her passenger side, but she did note that the assailant was under the influence. She would go on to say this on Twitter, saying, "I was hit by a drunk driver today on home from the PC with the Performance Center in a hit and run. I'm extremely thankful that it was my passenger side that was hit. Some people aren't so lucky. Please don't drink and drive." So why do people still do this? I don't know, but I guess we can be thankful that she could have been heard, because in a lot of these stories, Ash, when it involves people under the influence and driving while they're intoxicated and hit and run accidents, there have been, let's just say, worse stories that have happened. Like, people have died from things like this. So I think for Rachel Evers to walk away from this as she was not being hurt, I have to say, she must have somebody looking out for her.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is sort of bad. I mean, as I say, it's not as bad. There was a story of UFC. I can't remember his name. I think it's Matt Farmer or something like that. But basically, somehow his truck got hit by a train.
Ooh.
That's probably the wrong name, but I'm having a mind blank because I've only just got back in from doing some yard work and whatever. So, and then we had that story a few weeks back of a UFC fighter in Brazil that got into a row with his Uber driver. So he got out the car, and then the Uber driver just ran him over from behind. Admittedly, that's sort of on-foot stuff and whatever with that one, but you see quite often some crazy sort of scrapes and accidents and whatever. And what I'm amazed about is her managing to bloody get the pictures that she did, and as clear as they were. That was pretty impressive, in all honesty.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, one of the main things from this past year's WWE Hall of Fame that everyone seems to continually talk about is Bret Hart's attacker, who was once again in the Manhattan Criminal Court. However, he was only there for around 3 minutes. He was reminded by the judge not to violate the 2 orders of protection against him, recording Bret the Hitman Hart and the security guard he injured. And the next hearing in this case is set for July 9th. Now, Kitty, I want you to keep in mind when you hear a story like this involving Bret Hart that he was a recovering stroke victim, even though he did suffer. I believe it was in 2005 when he first had it. But Bret Hart is really up there in age. He was only supposed to be there to give the Hall of Fame induction speech because he was part of a tag team known as the Hart Foundation. He was there with his partner's daughter, Natalia. Jim the Anvil Neidhart passed away several years ago, so they had her representing her father. And then in the middle of this speech, from out of nowhere, this guy, don't even know who he is, or even why. Well, I'll say why he did it in just a minute. But he somehow got past security when nobody was looking, and for some inane reason, tackled Bret and Natalia down to the mat. Now they were everybody was quickly on this idiot, including Travis Brown and Revival member Dash Wilder, who definitely gave the guy a good punch to the face for his trouble. But then he would go on to later reveal in his first appearance in court the reason why he did this. He said, quote, that he felt the time was right. And I'm left wondering, did this guy personally, in my mind, have a thought in his entire empty-headed freaking skull to do something as stupid as tackle a legend down in front of an entire row of professional wrestlers, some of which who are 7 feet tall and 385 pounds? I mean, how do you react to something like this, Kitty?
Stupid is as stupid does. By Forrest Gump.
And like I said, the next hearing in this case is set for July. I don't know why. Why have there been so many hearings? Why can't they just say that, boom, this guy's guilty? You know, it's on TV. It's on all kinds of videos all over the internet, plain and clear as day, of evidence of this guy unprovokingly attacking two people in a crowd in a sea of what, 16,000 people.
It's the legal system, bro. When is it ever fucking cut and dry?
Not only that, but when you go to court, you can't use video evidence.
I mean,
There's
video
certain
evidence,
exceptions.
video evidence can be used for eyewitness stuff.
Yeah, it depends. Certain cases, by the law, said that you can't use certain video evidence because it's incriminating. But at the same time, it's evidence. So it's like, it's a 50-50 street, and sometimes video evidence isn't even considered. And so if they commit a crime like that and it's recorded, they could technically still walk.
I don't know. Something.
That's why they have
something
hearings.
about that smells like a rat. And what's up, Joe Space? Joe Space, one of the chat moderators here on twitch.tv/stackup.org. He says some of these guys know MMA moves. Oh, yeah, especially Ronda Rousey's husband, Travis Brown, who was one of the first guys who rushed into the ring and basically just worked the guy over. And for that reason alone, Travis Brown has a lot of my respect. And so does Dash Wilder. Dash Wilder has a lot of my respect. In fact, a lot of those guys out there earned a lot of my respect for what they did involving this situation, because they really could have just dismantled this guy. They could have just broke every bone in this guy's body, this idiot's body, and rightfully they should have. I'm not condoning violence in any way, shape, or form, but when you do something as stupid and disrespectful as tackling a legend for no other reason than saying, I felt the time was right, then you deserve to have every bone in your body broken, because you are just a stain on the underwear of society. Because that's how stupid you are. You don't attack anybody for any reason, let alone saying, I don't even know this guy, but I felt the time was right to attack him, so I'm going to attack him.
I mean, I don't know why we're trying to give the guy any more publicity than he already wants.
Well, we're not saying his name, and we will never say his name on this podcast, ever. But people can make the inference as to who we're talking about. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Well, recently, and I know you didn't want to talk about this, but I felt that like it should be mentioned. Anyway, in that Terry Runnels, the former wife of Goldust, a.k.a. Dustin Runnels, a.k.a. Dustin Rhodes, a.k.a. the guy who was in the black and red on AEW's Double or Nothing, who bled like a stuck pig.
AKA, we stop saying AKA because then the KKK will go to the AAA.
Oh, God. Well, she was recently arrested in Tampa, Florida for carrying a loaded gun into the Tampa International Airport. She just recently issued a statement about her arrest, and it goes like this, quote, so evidently it's everywhere that I took a loaded handgun into the Tampa International Airport, and I literally, when I go to see my mom, I pack my gun. Because she has armadillos that ruin her garden and other critters that go after her chickens, and I usually take my gun when I go to see her. I was with her for about a week and a half and helping her out. I got home and was literally, I think I got 8 hours sleep in 3 days. And then I got up this morning, Wednesday the 29th too, I think it was 4 a.m. when I got up to make this early flight to go to Allentown for the show for the benefit for Sam. And literally, it did not even cross my mind that my gun was in my Vera Bradley tote that I always take on the plane with me. And it was the most, God, I've never in trouble in my life. And this is how they worded it. And it scared the hell out of me. And it was a simple mistake that, dear God, it was just horrible. If you're a praying soul, pray, because it still scares me, and I don't even know what to say because I'm going to start crying, so I'm going to shut up. But I at least wanted you guys to know what mistake I had made and what happened. I think some places are reporting as if I intended to do something terrible. I simply forgot that it was in that bag. So yeah, thanks guys. Love you, ciao. And that's a simple case of the way she's seeing it. Here is that it was just a mistake. And it was just, a mistake that she's made. People do make mistakes. And I wouldn't read anything more into it, Kitty, other than the fact that she made a mistake that she's incredibly sorry for.
I mean, I'm not mad at her for it. I don't blame her at all. There, a lot of people forget they do things all the time. I don't see a reason why anyone should be mad about it. I mean, she's only human. She's not a super machine that can remember everything that she ever does.
Ash, let me ask you this question. Do you think people who have, like, I want to say, like a more high profile status in society, who are more well known, whenever they make, like, such a mistake like this, that people tend to dwell on it and start jumping into the wrong conclusions?
Partially, but that's the problem when you're in a country that has the issues that have been developing over recent times about gun safety and gun control and everything. I understand why she needed it for the thing, but obviously because it didn't come to her mind because she was busy with other stuff before getting on the plane, then it sort of overshadows it. I feel sorry for the situation, but at the same time, you've always sort of got to think one step ahead, if you can.
So what do you guys here in the twitch.tv/stackup.org chat think about this whole situation? And again, any comments that are made in the chat room will be read out loud for the podcast. And if you have any questions or any comments you guys would like to make, also, we will read them out loud for the podcast. But I think we should, do you have any more topics for us to talk about before we get into AEW and WWE this week?
Well, the one comes off AEW, so it would probably best if we waited until we talk AEW.
Well, shall we start talking about AEW? Because I don't have anything else to talk. I don't have any other topics.
Yeah, I don't think there's sort of anything else that's really sort of... The big thing, as I say, relates to what went down at Double or Nothing. So...
Okay. Now, I will say this before Ash gets started. I do tend to use streams to watch certain shows, and I want to say the people behind Cody Rhodes and company and AEW were all over these streams, shutting them down left and right, and it made it...
Well, I've heard some rumors that it's not him directly, but is somebody that was part of the wrestling business, but then ironically went into the porn business to stop the sort of piracy of porn, and has been trying to sell their service similarly to various wrestling companies around the globe. In other words,
very quickly, Joe Space says in the chat room, Tonka's Jericho podcast dropped and he had John Moxley on it. I'm gonna have to give that a listen. I'm gonna have to give that a listen later today.
We will get to that. That's why I didn't want to bring it up in the news until we talk Double or Nothing, because arguably from that is what happened from that, and that is that.
Well,
that
Should we give a
You're saying
preview
that
of NXT Takeover 25 before we get into AEW?
I mean, we could do. Decent look of 5 matches heading your way from Bridgeport, Connecticut. Other ports and bridges are available.
Yes, and 4 of the 5 matches are championship matches. First off, we have Matt Riddle and Roderick Strong, which kind of leads me to believe that they're doing this to either have Roderick Strong or have him work a match and have him rested for what possibly could happen in the main event, or something might happen to him during the match where he won't be able to appear in the main event. And I'll tell you what the main event is in just a minute. There's also the NXT North American Championship match where we have Velveteen Dream defending against Tyler Breeze. And a very unique story behind that one, Ash, because you said it on my own Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/WrestleGamer, that Tyler Breeze is replacing an injured... I want to say his name correctly, so I'm going to let you say it.
Yeah. Dominik Dijakovic, or, Dominic Dijak, if you know him from the Indies, / Ring of Honor. Basically, tore one of his pecs, I believe. So he's had a little bit of surgery on that. He will be sort of ready to go within the next month or so. So I think the idea is they transitioned him out to now, because of all the storyline they already did. They've transitioned him out to then continue the storyline to build up to SummerSlam in Toronto.
Let me ask you this question. Do you feel that Tyler Breeze is more relevant in NXT than what he's done on the main roster?
Sort of by default, yes. But then at the same time, I do feel that he's sort of card filler. It might sound harsh to say, but what I'm trying to say is he's there just to fill up the gap that Dijakovic is leaving.
Would it be beyond reason for them to put the NXT North American title on him?
No, there's no point in doing that. That ruins the storyline that Dream has with. That ruins the storyline Dream has with Dijakovic that they were building to.
By the way, a quick shout out to Dos Equis 18-pack in the StackUp.org Twitch chat. How are you doing today? We also have a ladder match for the vacant NXT Tag Team Championship. As we all know, they were vacated by the War Raiders. I'm sorry, the Viking Experience. I'm sorry, the Viking Warriors. I'm sorry, whatever name they want to go by now these days.
I think, hang on, I need to verify this. I need to double check. They are officially now the Viking Raiders.
Viking Raiders.
So in the space of a month, they were War Raiders, Viking Experience, Viking Warriors, and now the Viking Raiders. By the way, they haven't been on television in any shape or form, at least on Raw, for 3 weeks, despite all that big push against the Lucha House Party because Lars Sullivan.
Yeah. But anyway, the people in this ladder match...
They weren't even on main event. They haven't been on main event for the last 3 weeks. It's like, what is going on?
I really, really don't know. But this ladder match is a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match, and it's a ladder match. It's Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, the Street Profits, the Forgotten Sons, and Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. And I think the one team that is a standout for me is the only team that's ever been the NXT Tag Team Champions. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. for some reason, I'm kind of leaning towards them. Yeah, but
I mean,
very quickly though, Joe Space in the Twitch chat says Lars Sullivan has left Twitter according to Cultaholic, and I can't confirm that he has left Twitter. That he is done with social media because of this whole situation in the past when he was on the bodybuilding. I can English. I swear I can English. Bodybuilding forums where he was making some less than savory comments about certain people and minorities and whatnot, and I believe WWE fined him in excess of over $100,000 for those comments. Ash, has that been substantiated?
yeah, supposedly. It's hard to tell whether it is exactly. He's doing something.
But anyway, do you see any other teams, winning the tag team championship? Because I can't look past Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, other than the fact that they've been champions in the past, and to me, they were really good NXT tag team champions up until the injury happened.
I wouldn't rule out Street Profits because I think they have got some pretty good momentum at the minute. Because I foresee the Forgotten Sons being the team chasing. I want it to be Undisputed Era though, because I think the band is breaking up to some extent. Because I foresee it being a good night for Undisputed Era, bar one man.
Yeah,
we already talked about.
Yep. The NXT Women's Championship match. We have Shayna Baszler defending the title against the woman who, and I'm going to say this so Kitty will know who I'm talking about exactly, got a little bit upset with me for posting a picture of her on my Discord early yesterday. Io Shirai. And I'm going to say it can be an interesting match. I mean, if anything, not just for the fact of the affinity I have for Asian women, but Io Shirai is by far a very talented worker, and she does do some amazing things, and I would personally like to see her have a run with the NXT Women's Championship. Because let's just face it, Baszler, and forgive my French for this, but is badass as all as they come. But I don't know. I'm just saying I would like to see Io Shirai win the championship, Ash, but I don't know. Let's just say I'm about 40% on the side of wanting Io Shirai to win the match, because for some reason I just think that they're just going to keep the title on Shayna for a long time, considering what she's done.
The way I'm sort of thinking out along the lines is maybe Io wins and the rematch happens at Toronto, and then Shayna may transition up to the main roster. Because I think in her, 18 months that she's been down there roughly now, I think she's proven herself that she's probably ready for the main roster. The problem is, knowing how Vince is with main roster, does that mean mediocrity? But then again, considering her UFC background, he will jump the shit all over that.
Prime example, Ronda Rousey.
Well, that's a high-profile case. Shayna wasn't as high-profile when she was in UFC. She was getting, some good wins here and there, but not on the caliber of Ronda. But, We've got to tease more 4 horsewomen because we don't want Sasha to leave.
But unfortunately,
Maybe.
speaking of Sasha, very quickly, she's recently gone to social media and posted some interesting pictures of her in a bathing suit. Have you seen these?
No.
Yeah, it was from a recent photo
I watch
shoot.
adult material.
And it was and she just posted it on her Twitter. You know, these pictures. It was from a photo shoot she did just recently, and it's some interesting pictures, to say the least, of her in a.
I'm surprised you're not talking about the bigger stuff that she tweeted about this past week.
Which was?
In a company that's all about sports entertainment. It's interesting how a lot of them were tweeting at the weekend, which apparently peeved off a lot of officials, especially Vince, backstage, about wrestling. Not the sports entertainment, wrestling. The banned word in WWE. You can't say wrestling.
And she also had several tweets regarding AEW, including one in particular saying, "I love Awesome Kong."
Yeah.
So, but anyway, back to NXT Takeover 25. In the main event, the NXT Championship on the line as Johnny Gargano defends the championship against Adam Cole of the Undisputed Era. And I would like Gargano to retain, but I get the feeling that somehow, if we're going towards the storyline we're all thinking of, and that is the breakup of the era, in particular the kicking out of Roderick Strong, then it's got to go to the point where Roderick Strong would have to do something in error or something to cause Cole the match, to finally have Adam Cole say, you know what, I'm tired of you. I'm tired of your mistakes. You've cost me championship after championship. I want you out of the group. And then they just beat down Roderick Strong. It would have to be somewhere along the lines where it would have to be something to do with Roderick Strong either costing Adam Cole the match intentionally or by accident, I feel, for that to happen. Ash, what do you think?
No. I think Roddy loses and everybody else wins. Because Adam Cole proclaimed that Undisputed Era would be all golden in 2019. So I foresee Cole winning. Probably via shenanigans.
Yeah, with Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly.
Gargano and him can have some sort of crazy rematch, maybe, in Toronto, because he did wrestle quite a bit there for Smash Wrestling, which would be a good sort of tug on that sort of like, I mean, not hometown, but sort of one of the promotions that he worked at. I think Cole did a few shows there. I'm not entirely sure. I'm more sure with Gargano. And then maybe Gargano actually transitions to the main roster. And then the interesting thing is, what if Cole gets chased by Ciampa? Because I don't know what the recovery time is on his injury.
Well, considering it's something to do with the neck, and in fact he had surgery on it, it's really hard to say, because the neck is one of the most pivotal joints in your entire body. And, we could just ask Stone Cold Steve Austin when it comes to neck injuries, how important a role it plays to make sure that you're fully healed, make sure everything was right, because that neck injury from that infamous tombstone pile driver botch that he had with Owen Hart ultimately ended up costing him his career, in a sense, because he could have gone on a lot longer than what he did. And the same could be said for Edge, because Edge's neck issues ended up forcing him to retire much earlier than what he anticipated. So I think, if anything, I think WWE and Tommaso Ciampa, when it comes to this and comes to the neck injury, and I think, Kitty, this is something you might be able to weigh in on too, when it comes to like neck injuries in any type of a sports atmosphere type thing, whether it's like wrestling, MMA, football, baseball, any type of thing that involves sports activity, neck injuries should be handled with care, because if not, it can greatly reduce a person's career when it comes to doing something like that. But anyway, Ash. By the way, guys, don't forget that this Saturday, I believe it's Saturday, correct, for NXT Takeover 25?
Yep.
We will be live on my Twitch channel, which is at twitch.tv/WrestleGamer, doing a watch-along party, giving our reactions to it. Normally, I would commentate on WWE shows, but I will never, and I repeat, I will never over-commentate Mauro Ranallo. Because Mauro Ranallo, right now, is one of the best voices in WWE. And I feel that if I were to do something like that, as over-commentate on Mauro Ranallo, it would be nothing but disrespectful. Mauro Ranallo, in my mind, should be the main voice of Monday Night Raw. He should be the voice of WWE. He should be this era's Jim Ross. And I felt like he's been mistreated from the get-go, especially when he started on SmackDown Live. I'm glad he's on NXT, where he's got more free reign creatively for his commentary, because he's one of the reasons why I watch NXT, just to listen to his commentary, because commentary can make or break a show. And if your commentary is good and it's on point, it adds to the show and makes the show much more entertaining. However, if the commentary is less than lackluster, it just decreases the value of everything you watch. Because then you sit there wondering, why am I listening to this? This guy's just awful on commentary, which is something we constantly say about Michael Cole on a weekly basis when it comes to WWE. But I will say this Saturday, it will be a live reaction stream. It will not be a live commentary stream. I will not, nor will I ever, over-commentate someone as good as Mauro Ranallo when it comes to wrestling. So if you guys want to hang out with us, react to the show when we're reacting to it, you are more than welcome to do so. Again, that's going to be on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/WrestleGamer. So I have to say, I'm really looking forward to it. NXT has never had a bad takeover. There have been 24 takeovers. There has never been a bad one ever. So look for...
Well, I'm trying to think back to those first ones. Those early ones, in the days of Neville and Pac and Corey Graves when he wasn't injured. I don't remember them as vividly as like when they went to actually being sort of co-maining with WWE pay-per-views, on the big times. When they were out of Full Sail. Sorry, Full Sail, you are a good venue, but just I don't remember those shows as much. Maybe the first one would be Rival, when Kevin finished off Sammy with the powerbomb onto the apron, and he won the match via basically ref stoppage.
And that's also when he had the match with the man who is now known as Juice Robinson, when he got basically lacerated. I believe it was on the bridge of his nose, if I remember correctly.
That was at some point before, though.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, we are now going to turn our eyes towards AEW's Double or Nothing, and there were certain points where I was able to watch certain bits and pieces on it. So when the time comes to the pre-show,
pre-show was free.
I didn't get the chance to watch it. It's still up on YouTube though. It's still up on YouTube. But I did not get the opportunity to watch the pre-show. But there were other bits and pieces of Double or Nothing that I was able to watch. So when the time comes to give my opinion on it, I will do so. But I'm mostly going to leave this part mostly to Ashley and everybody in chat who's watched AEW's Double or Nothing. Ash?
So the pre-show surprisingly started off with the Casino Battle Royale. Which caught me off guard because I thought they were going to have that as sort of the main event of the pre-show. Considering the fact that whoever won it would be, the big bit. So we started off with the clubs being Dustin Thomas, MJF, Sunny Days, Brandon Cutler, and Michael Nakazawa.
Kitty, you okay?
Anyways, I have to go, guys. No, I'm tired. I just stared at a screen for all morning. Anyways, I'm gonna go to the river. I'll see you guys later.
All right. Thank you for joining us once again on the podcast, Kitty.
Okay. Bye, chat.
Now, MJF understandably went straight after Dustin Thomas because he has no legs. The problem is, when we've seen Dustin at Joey Janela's Spring Break 3 this past WrestleMania weekend, he did stuff. He didn't just act like a dead corpse for the majority of the 16 minutes of the match of the duration, which I felt was a little bit problematic. Or very problematic, whatever.
I honestly, when I first saw him at Spring Break, during the name of the match that we will not say on here, because of
no. He actually had a match outright the night before on night 1.
I know, but the first time I saw him wasn't on night 1. It was on night 2. Or night 3, I think it was.
Oh,
the Cluster F.
The cluster mess, yeah.
Yeah. And what I saw this guy do, and keep in mind when we mention him, that this is a guy who does not have any legs. And he can work a match with the best of them. And to me, that is inspiration.
I don't know whether they put it up. I don't know whether they put it up for free yet, but the match he had with Tony Deppen on night 1, I'd say is a better showcase. Because it's an actual match. Rather than him being a bit part player in a battle royal.
So I will say this, though. If you haven't had the opportunity to see this person work a match, please do. Please check out the Joey Janela Spring Break from this past year. And I promise you, what you see this guy do will amaze you.
That sounds like clickbait, and it sort of is.
I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling the truth on how I felt about it.
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like a clickbait thing, like 10 things you'll never believe. Number 6 will astonish you. It just sounds, the way you're describing it, it just sounds like, oh my god, it's clickbait. Hang on, let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can quickly see if Game Changer Wrestling actually put up the match for free on their YouTube channel. So you can check that out right now. Well, maybe afterwards, but they put it up a few weeks back because of him being announced for the battle for AEW and whatever. So they did a pretty good job. I won't go through sort of all the eliminations. The diamonds were Isaiah Cassidy, one half of Private Party, Jimmy Havoc, Joey Janela, Brian Pillman Jr. and Sean Spears. During this segment, I think Janela came out and lit up a cigarette, which Jimmy Havoc then took and stapled to his head. But the cameras never really got that.
Just the image of that is just ouch.
Sean Spears was obviously doing the whole 10 thing because technically he entered in at number 10 of sorts, even though they came in batches of 5 because he was the last of the 5. MJF made fun of him and gave him 2. And then Sean Spears came back at him and gave him 10 and then another 1. Then the Hearts featured Ace Romero, Mark Quinn, the other half of Private Party, Jungle Boy, Glacier, and Billy Gunn. The really interesting thing, I would say, coming out of these 5 was the pounce that Romero gave to Marco Stunt, who was in the final bit.
That part I saw. Oh my god.
He pounced it. But if you've seen Ace Romero on YouTube or social media, you'll know him for doing the pounce, which threw the guy out so far he went out of shot from a hard cam. Like, he threw him high, but then also probably about 4 meters out of the ring, over the top rope.
Didn't he land in the crowd?
No, he... in the original? I think there were people there to catch him. Maybe. From what I remember, like, Janela got eliminated at that point, I think. Actually, no. Mark Quang got eliminated. Isaiah Cassidy as well, Private Party, and I think Pillman Jr. as well. Looking at the order, they were eliminated. So it might have been them that caught him. Glacier was there for a little bit, got eliminated pretty early. So the final 5 were Luchasaurus, the aforementioned Marco Stunt, Sonny Kiss, and Tommy Dreamer, of all people. I mentioned 4 people there because it is explained in a bit. So then the Joker comes out and everyone's going, who could it be? And given the events, it made sense that, oh, look, it's Adam Page. So Adam Page, did some spots here and there. And then, showing up fashionably late because of his character, comes Orange Cassidy, who does his usual brutal kicks in inverted commas to Tommy Dreamer. And Dreamer clobbers him, and he kips up. All this, by the way, while still having his hands in his pockets. And then he gets thrown out the ring. I guess to be safe, he had to take his hands out of his pockets to make sure he had a safe landing, which ruined the immersion. But there you go. And eventually we were left down to Jimmy Havoc, Adam Page, Luchasaurus, and a hiding away MJF. I guess technically Jungle Boy, if you don't count the hiding MJF. Jungle Boy got taken out by Jimmy Havoc. Then Luchasaurus managed to take out Jimmy. Then Adam got rid of Luchasaurus. Thought he'd won. MJF threw him over the top rope. MJF is celebrating. Yes, I won. Except Adam Page didn't get eliminated. Did his springboard. Well, he springboard off the rope and the lariato, and as you call, and threw MJF out. And Adam Page wins and gets a AEW World Title shot somewhere down the line. My guess is All Out.
But against who? would be the question because
we'll get to that.
Okay.
So then we had Kip Sabian versus Sammy Guevara in a. We did this because it's on British television, everybody. So guess who goes over? Lo and behold, Kip Sabian did go over. It started off a little technical, British technical sort of style at the start, but eventually, sort of Sammy did his usual flippy expertise, and Kip did some of it combined with his physique and whatever. But Kip got the win. A decent match for a pre-show, you know. Coming after the Battle Royal, it was going to be really a tough thing to follow up with, and I think it sort of delivered to some extent. Then there was some sort of promo bits, Nakazawa and Matt Jackson and various things sort of backstage, and then they came out, you know, welcomed everybody, which sort of overlapped into the pay-per-view time. Pay-per-view starts. And we open with the Strong Hearts of Chima, T-Hawk, and El Lindaman versus SoCal Uncensored of Daniels, Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky. In essence, this match, I think, did what it had to do, which is tell everybody how good Chima, T-Hawk, and El Lindaman are. I'm trying to work out how much, what bits you saw.
I didn't see any of that.
Well, you should. It was a good way to showcase those three guys. I was going to say showcase OWE, but technically they're the Dragon Gate guys that left there to form OWE to try and get a development of like good Chinese talent rather than these sort of random not wrestlers getting picked up by WWE and then just thrown away on the scrap heap. God, I hope that doesn't happen to Zia Lee. She has potential, damn it.
Yeah, she does.
But, you know, I'm sort of surprised that SoCal went over, considering I think they won their first match when they fought in Japan, like a month or so before. But it was still good. You had Chima being Chima, El Lindaman sort of being a really sort of young, bulky Suzuki or something like that. T-Hawk proving his expertise from the Dragon Gate style. Overall, good six-man tag. The key thing is nothing really felt the same in any of the matches that actually showed up on the show. So then the triple threat women's match.
Didn't see that.
Nyla Rose, Kylie Ray, and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Except here comes Brandy Rose in wrestling gear, and I'm like, oh no. Oh no. And then Brandy goes, look, I told you you've all got a good chance of winning, but I don't want a good match. I want a match that's awesome. And I'm like, it's Maurice. She's going to come out as pregnant because I didn't think we'd see the return of Awesome Kong. Which caught me off guard because I thought she was done with wrestling because of Glow, but I guess not. She had a pretty good match. The thing I was surprised about is Britt Baker getting the win on Kylie Ray. I mean, it sort of made sense that Nyla Rose wasn't part of the finish, but the fact that Awesome Kong wasn't part of it either. I get that they're trying to obviously put Britt Baker over because she's been there since day one. She's the only returning woman, actually, when you think about it, that was part of the original four-way from All In last September. So I guess it made sense to sort of push her over. But Nyla had a good performance. Awesome Kong was good. Kylie Ray was good. And Britt was good as well. Then the best friends. Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta versus the... I can't remember what name they may have had in Mexico. Either way, it's Angelico and Jack Evans. Jack Evans couldn't stop talking every time that he saw a camera and just like, Jesus.
That I did see.
Bit problematic. I question the whole camera shot of getting the best friends hug and zooming out as if it's a bloody Rainmaker pose. As if it's Okada. I don't know what that's about.
I was wondering about that too.
Best friends getting the win though, I thoroughly thought was probably the right decision. But Angelico and Jack did manage to do quite a lot of their sort of flippy stuff, which isn't really what Chuck and Trent were about.
For some reason, to me, during this match, when I was able to watch it, it sounded like JR was either really not interested in the match or he was just flat out tired.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to the general analysis of stuff.
Okay.
In a minute. So after this, the lights go out.
Oh.
And then here come Masked Man and Masked Man. And then the lights go out again. And all these masked minions show up and start beating up all four of them. And commentary is like, well, I know who this is, but I don't want to say it. And I'm like, yeah, and then this was exacerbated by the crowd chanting, "Who are you? Who are you?" Because apparently, because they look completely different to how most people remember them from back in the day, nobody knew that was the Super Smash Brothers of Player Uno and Stupefied. Which is a bit problematic when you're trying to get them over as clearly this big, bad, tag team.
How do you get over a tag team when the crowd doesn't even know who you are? That does present a problem.
As I say, the problem is the gimmick that they're in is pretty much what the gimmick they've done when they've been in Toronto for the past few years. In sort of enforced exile. Because they haven't been able to get a visa. However, by the looks of it, AEW's got them a visa, so we might be seeing them again on various shows around America now, rather than show up like once every 2 years or whatever. I did like the framing though, that the minions all formed a sort of throne for Player Uno to sit on. I do like the sort of imagery that was used. The problem is the crowd didn't know who it was because the gimmick was completely different to what it was. And the commentators wouldn't mention the names either when it's just like, if you want to get it over, it's like,
Yeah, the only problem with that analogy, that part of it is, even if the commentators do put them over for the crowd, for the people who are watching the pay-per-views, that does nothing for the crowd who are there in attendance that night, who are still chanting, "Who are you? Who are you?" So in a sense, even if commentators were to say, "Oh, we know who this guy is, but we're not going to say it," or even if we know who these guys are and we say who they are, the crowd in attendance are not going to hear any of that, and they're still going to chant, "Who are you? Who are you?" So to me, it's for them to not even mention them on commentary, I feel it's kind of irrelevant to the fact that the live crowd didn't know who they were. So it's more important that that they try to get over on the live crowd who are in attendance that evening. And if they are not over on the crowd in attendance that evening, then there's really no point in mentioning them on commentary.
Yeah, but you see, if they made it clear to at least some people, because arguably there were going to be more people watching on pay-per-view. Because the rumor is it was sort of in or around six figures, but I don't know whether that's just US or international, or both, or everything. But arguably there was more people watching it there than the 12,000 or whatever it was that was in the building. Which, of course, because it's AEW at the start, got turned to 20,000 and then to 50,000 because they're making fun of VE. It's just like, okay, we get it. You could just say the actual attendance. Then the 6-woman tag.
That I did not see.
The Yoshi tag.
Well, I saw the entrances for the tag and like 2 or 3 spots of the match, but that was all I was able to see.
Ryo Abe, Ryo Mizunami, and Hikaru Shida taking on Aja Kong, Yuka Sakazaki, and Amy Sakura, who was dressed as apparently Freddie Mercury.
I think we need to, emphasize that on this match is due to the fact that these women represent Joshi Wrestling of Japan. Just so that we can make sure that everyone who is listening to this podcast, whether it be here on twitch.tv/stackup.org or on the YouTube channel at youtube.com/WrestleGamer, that they know, that they know that we are talking about women representing the Joshi company in Japan.
Joshi Company? What?
I don't know how else other to put it than, you say Joshi Wrestling.
Joshi Wrestling is women's wrestling in Japan. That's the terminology for it.
Okay, all right.
It's not a company.
Okay, I thought it was a company.
I mean, Aja Kong has come in and out of retirement for years at various promotions.
Wasn't Aja Kong a part of DDT?
No. She's done stuff for DDT. She randomly sang the Japanese national anthem at the empty baseball stadium match that Suzuki and somebody else had, which she's singing the anthem and they're trying to get in each other's faces, and she's literally pushing them apart because she's Aja Kong to stop them so she can finish singing her song. She can finish singing the anthem. It's just,
Let's just say this. If Aja Kong is going to sing a song, let her sing a song.
Yeah. Even if it is Suzuki, she's like, I'm not taking any mess. It was a really good showcase of all 6. The key thing to note, Sakazaki is signed, but seems to be making... she'll be making the trip every time that she's needed. However, with Hikaru Shida, she put out a tweet afterwards saying, "You won't be seeing me for a while, moving to America." So it looks as if she's wanting to be sort of getting her experience in the Western wrestling style for quite a while. Because Shida is sort of about 30, mainly out of Oz Academy and Pro Wrestling Wave right now. Ryo Abe, I think, is mainly based out of Gato Move Pro Wrestling, but has shown up in sort of various super stuff like Pro Wrestling Eve, getting a lot of the Japanese talents over and all that. Amy Sakura, who trained pretty much everybody that she faced against in the thing. She is the founder of the Ice Ribbon promotion. But then moved on to Gato Move Pro Wrestling. Yuka Sakazaki mainly works out of Tokyo Joshi Pro, which is the, no pun intended, sister promotion to DDT. Aja Kong, veteran and whatever. Ryu Mizunami, I don't know her exactly, mainly because Wikipedia doesn't tell me who she is, but let me just have a quick look. She's mainly based out of Pro Wrestling Wave. So what I'm trying to say is you've got a lot of women coming from various different promotions here. It's not just one promotion. It's not like a showcase for Stardom or a showcase for Tokyo Joshi Pro. It's showcasing sort of the experience as well as some of the up and coming talents from Japan that deserve to be seen probably on a wider stage than they currently are. And I think this match did a very good job. Some of the ragdolling that Rio Abe was doing was ridiculous for some of the spots. There was a match that I think her and maybe Shida had with Yuka and somebody else in DDT back on January 4th. I think in the morning before Wrestle Kingdom and whatever at Kurikan Hall. That was very well received, so they delivered to me. The only problem with this one is the pinfall that went to 2.9, and the bell and the timekeeper rang the bell and screwed it up. Apparently afterwards, by the way, the team of Shida, Abe, and Mizunami won. Probably worth noting that afterwards, supposedly, Aja Kong went over to the timekeeper's area and threatened to knock the timekeeper out for making the mistake and ruining the match. I was like, great start, guys. Yes. There you go. So then the big three. Dustin Rhodes versus Cody.
Should we mention the shot that was heard around the world?
Oh, God, yeah, Cody being a dick. Because he comes out past a very Triple H looking throne. And he goes to ringside, and Brandy's pulled a sledgehammer out from under the apron. Cody takes the sledgehammer, takes it to back up the ramp, and smashes the sledgehammer with unnecessary pyro. I'm confused, because I'd have thought Triple H should want competition. Because he comes from the era that knows how competition was to them. The problem is that arguably the symbol should have been something Vince related, but the problem is, what would that be? You couldn't have a face of Vince McMahon there because, well, likeness. I'm officially pulling the product.
You couldn't do the WWE logo because, again, that would also be licensed.
Yeah.
Vince really doesn't have his own like symbol or something that's identifiable with his character.
I mean, if there were letters that said like VKM,
that
Vince, he could have smashed them up, because then it's only a reference to the Voodoo Kint Mafia from TNA. Or Vince Russo.
B.G. James and Kip James.
We'll get to him. This was arguably match of the night because of Dustin not knowing how to blade.
Well, you know what? I don't know if I can agree with that statement, because I've made that statement towards a lot of... For those of you who aren't aware here in the Stack Up chat, I am also a wrestling commentator, and I do work with a lot of guys here in the state of Louisiana, and a lot of them are kind of disagreeing with a lot of what the fans are saying, that Dustin didn't blade himself right, because they said from their perspective and their point of view that Dustin just did an exceptional job of blading and sold it properly.
Yeah, but the fact that they literally had to change the ring because there was that much blood.
Well, yeah, that too.
I think you could have easily done it with blood, but just not that much.
It was a tad excessive.
Was the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did agree with the analogy you did on Popcast by saying that it was Stone Coldish. I would go a step further and say that this was even further beyond what Stone Cold and Bret Hart did at WrestleMania 13.
Yeah, because from what I remember, from what I vaguely remember, was that Hardway at Mania 13? Can't remember.
I think that
I cannot remember off the head.
All I remember was it was the submission match between Bret Hart and Steve Austin with Ken Shamrock as the referee, and that infamous scene of Stone Cold trying to counter out of the sharpshooter, blood coming out of his face, and then him passing out.
The blading wasn't very well covered up.
No, it wasn't.
Thanks to Hebner and Brandy and the camera angle. I guess the angle that they were saying is he got busted open by Brandy hitting Dustin with the ring bell hammer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the angle they were trying to pursue. But I just felt it was the blood. You could have had blood and it would have been fine. But the amount of blood with the blood loss, the crowd was sort of hushed into silence because they were invested. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it was like, seriously, this guy needs some medical attention.
Yeah,
seriously.
Like there was a plague of concern for the health and safety of Dustin Rhodes. And it's understandable when they see something as someone bleeding excessively during a match. There's going to be cause for quite concern. But there's something that people need to know is with every promotion, there's always a medical staff on standby, whether it be like an EMT or an ambulance and stuff like that. But even...
There were medical staff on standby when Silver King died.
Yeah.
And that was less than a month ago.
And that is still fresh in everyone's minds.
Staff there as you want. You can have as many medical staff and, first aid people as you want. If they're not there at the right time, shit goes down.
And I think the thing people need to take into account is Dustin Runnels is up there in age. He's not a young man.
Some of the bits as well that I think you saw afterwards that looked rough may have just been because Dustin was a little bit woozy because of the blood. But the fact that, nearly every single bit of the mat was covered in blood. Cody was covered in blood.
Mm-hmm.
The commentators may have been covered in blood if they weren't, in the bloody belfry. If they were at ringside, they would be covered in blood. Just blood. But it aided to the storyline of the blood feud, I guess, between brothers, sort of thing. Cody eventually getting a win with a Crossroads. And then the aftermath, which arguably made the match even better. When Cody, the hints were that it was Dustin's last match. And he was sort of ready to leave his boots in the ring. And Cody's like, no. You don't get to do that tonight. Because when we started this thing, I signed a piece of paper for a match at Fight for the Fallen, which is their show in July. Which will be a tag match with me and a partner of my choosing against the Young Bucks. And I don't need a friend. I don't even need a I don't even need a partner. I need my big brother. And while he's doing that, he's sort of choking up, sort of on tears.
There's a reason for that.
And they
There is an absolute reason for that. And when I saw the comparison,
because it's exactly what Dustin did to Dusty back in WCW.
No, reverse that. Dusty did to Dustin.
Oh, it was the other way around.
Yes.
I know it was sort of reminiscent of that spot because a lot of people were talking about it afterwards.
Yeah. And I even can.
So that
And according to Joe Space in the Twitch chat here on StackUp.org, he says it was reported that he said that he bladed too deep.
Yeah. He bladed. I think he bladed too deep on the wrong vein or artery. You can nick yourself and get sort of enough color, but if you obviously gauge it a bit too far, woof. So then, the Young Bucks defending the Triple A World Tag Team titles against the Lucha Bros of Penta and Phoenix. A lot of crazy spots here. The special move, by the looks of it, that the Young Bucks were trying was actually Lucha Brothers' own finisher, which is an interesting little twist. And then winning with the Meltzer driver, despite Matt's arm supposedly being broken because of the thing. I'm surprised they didn't do the title change here, in all honesty, because I thought they were going to have the title change and then the rematch in Mexico. But I can certainly see the viewpoint of it makes sense for the Lucha Brothers to win in Mexico, try and get them over. Of which that will be coming in 3 weeks, everybody. Whether me and Billy will be covering that. I think it's the Saturday after. It's a fortnight from this Saturday, I should say. So, I'm guessing that's where the titles will change hands. But it's very good from both of them. Really delivered. Oh, I forgot the Brandy getting taken away by DDP just randomly. Last match. The other thing I also forgot about, which is probably worth mentioning here, considering the main event,
The title belt review.
We bring on the ever so supposedly popular and fantastic Jack Whitehall, and I'm like, Alex Marvez, shut the hell up. Some people detest that man. Quite notably, maybe me. Half the time I don't think he's funny. If he's a wrestling fan, why hasn't he shown it before? He's there with the belt, except, oh no, you thought he was going to be there with the belt, but he introduces Bret Hart, who comes out and says, he gets the wording wrong. He says, I haven't done this in a while. And bloody Jack decides to sort of unveil the belt for himself when he's teasing it, as if to go, no, really shouldn't be doing that. And then MJF shows up and makes fun of, oh, there's somebody about to attack you, Brett. And Brett's smiling at this. It's not like he's unhappy. Even he knows how good MJF is on the mic. The only thing I don't get about MJF is how he's so in character all the time, no matter what. Because how he'll be able to do that if he ever gets to the E, by chance, I don't know. When that guy ever just like is himself, you know, he'll get burnt out way too quickly if he tries to stay in gimmick for too long. Yeah, MJF basically comes out because Paige is introduced out there because he's got a title shot, and MJF rolls enough people up enough that Jungle Boy and Jimmy Havoc sort of see to him, and MJF sort of runs away, and the other three sort of stand tall, and then Brett shows the belt, and none of the camera angles show it properly until like right at the very end. So Cody had to put out a tweet showing it. It's like, this is what the belt looks like. We didn't do a great job on the pay-per-view, but this is what it looks like. So then the main event. Lionheart, no weight. Listov, no weight. Light Up Jacket, no weight. Chris Jericho, who wasn't in his sort of clown gear, which I'm guessing that's a New Japan exclusive. Showed up with Kenny Omega in sort of a One-Winged Angel inspired gear, because of course, Final Fantasy VII Remake, everybody. They had a very good back and forth match. And surprisingly, Jericho wins clean with his Judas effect back elbow. You sort of expected when it was hit, it was sort of going to be the end, but somehow you just thought it'd be kicked out. But then, of course, that wouldn't make sense, because then it's like this new move is going to be ineffective if they show somebody kicking out of it after the first time. So it does make sense. And then Jericho's there saying, you know, everybody should be thanking me for this. And the crowd's going crazy, and I'm going, oh no, it's happening, isn't it? Is it happening? And lo and behold, hearing through the crowd is Jon Moxley. Shows up, gets in the ring, and Jericho's like, what are you doing here? And we're like, funny lines coming from you. This is the guy that 12 months ago was in the Greatest Royal Rumble. Remember that, everybody? Beats down Jericho. Beats down Paul Turner, the referee. And then gets into a big old brawl with Kenny. They go over to the poker chips that are part of the set. Dirty Deeds on there. And Attitude Adjustment-esque throws him through sort of the floor by ringside. And that's how the pay-per-view goes off the air. So, the generalities rather than the actual matches. The refereeing was brilliant. Aubrey Edwards did a great job showcasing her expertise from Defy. Paul Turner from Defy, well, mainly from Ring of Honor, actually, as one of the junior officials, did a very good job, especially as senior official. Earl Hebner.
Is Earl Hebner.
Earl Hebner did what he had to do. You know, he did the whole waving his hands as if he's doing semaphore and, you're out of here, Brandy. It's like, Bryce Remsburg is my bae. Rick Knox is my second bae. They did a good job on the matches that they were given to. Alicia too, in the little bit of interviewing she allegedly did in the pre-show, with the appearance of the librarians and the fighting librarians of Leva Bates and Pretty Peter Avalon. Although, full credit to Leva having a book entitled "Whatever Happened to the American Dream."
Oh,
So that was genius.
oh.
So then on commentary, first Ali did a very good job. She wasn't wrestling, but she was part of the Women's Fatal 4-Way commentary. I believe she's wrestling as part of the Fighter Fest show. If not, for sure as part of the Fight for the Fallen show that are coming up. Actually, let me look. Yes, she is. She's part of the Fight for the Fallen, but not on Fighter Fest. At least, yeah. Who knows? Excalibur. I know some people don't like him shouting everything, but if you haven't seen anything PWG related, you don't know that that's how he gets stuff over. I mean, let's be honest, that's how Billy gets stuff over. He just shouts a lot.
I'm not denying it either.
Jim started rough, but eventually when he got sort of into gear properly with the arena, he was getting really good on form. Although you could sort of tell for the matches that he didn't care about, because he sort of openly talked about not really giving a damn about the Yoshi 6-woman tag, which is a bit worrying. But thankfully Excalibur was there. Alex Marvez. I get he's supposed to be out there as the statistician, but the problem is there are no stats to track because they're on a new show. And like some bits, he's just randomly calling out moves because they're letting him call out a move. And it's just like, he's not great. I don't know whether he's in place of somebody that they couldn't get, or whether over time he'll develop and sort of become a better sort of fit for the commentary. But as it stands, I'd say Excalibur overperformed and was probably a revelation to some people. Jim Ross eventually got into it, but some of the early stuff felt a little bit ugh. And Marvez just felt tacked on. He just felt like the third person on the commentary table that's unnecessary in all other free seat commentaries. Hi there, Byron. Hi there. Hi there, sort of, Renee, but I get why they're doing it. Hi there, Beth Phoenix. Hi there, Aiden English. Oh, wait, they don't have a three-man commentary team for NXT UK. They're sensible!
So how would you score AEW's Double or Nothing?
Out of 10, I'd say an 8. There was some stuff that wasn't perfect. I can't say it's an excellent show. I can't, though, say it's a bad show or a good show. I'd say it was a great show.
By the way,
it's not like, I'm not going to be one of these people that's sort of blinkered into, I am WWE, fuck this company, or I am AEW, fuck the WWE.
Well,
because that's what it's all about.
Before we get into how WWE would respond to AEW's Double or Nothing, a big shout out to Chris B. Raps in the StackUp.org Twitch chat. How are you doing today? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the podcast. We are currently talking about, we just finished talking about AEW's Double or Nothing, and with that show in the books, just how would WWE respond creatively with their shows?
We need to bring up the other thing. We need to bring up what sort of happened. I guess it may have been recorded on, I'm trying to see if I can get the news from it. Oh wow, the website really doesn't say the highlights from it. That's annoying. The Talk is Jericho with Moxley. This is why I sort of wanted to bring it up now, Billy, because it was interesting as hell. So some of the notes: Moxley saying that he's never been happier and in the apex of his life. It feels like the weight of the world's been lifted off his shoulder. Has nothing but gratitude for WWE. You know, growing up there and changing his life. Got to live his dream and do amazing things. You know, being part of Make-A-Wish, meeting his wife. But then it got interesting. So he knew last July that he wanted out. He mentioned a time when he was a major babyface on SmackDown and was given a backstage promo by a writer. And it was him describing the things he did on his way to the arena that day. But they weren't things that a cool or relatable person would do. Which Moxley noted, you know, was basically more things an idiot would do. He wanted the promo changed. Vince redid it and put all the rubbish stuff back in. When he went to Vince to talk about it, Vince told him it was such good crap, cleaning it up a bit, and was what makes people like him and connect with him. Then he physically looked at the calendar and started counting down the days that he had in the company. And the second was the day he absolutely, when he looked at the calendar again, he absolutely knew he was gone and almost walked out. The first was when Seth challenged him to come out to fight, which was insulting the audience in LA, calling them smelly and disgusting, if you remember that from back last year, Billy.
Yes.
The other one was the Roman Reigns leukemia line. Vince explained it in an innocuous way and gave him the Vince Jedi mind trick, as he calls it. It was his fault for being convinced, and as soon as the line left his mouth, he couldn't believe that he said it. He thought that they killed the angle with Rollins if it wasn't dead already because of the way it was received. Because Vince lost was out of touch. Lol. But the day he knew he was leaving was, remember when he had those inoculations? The shot in his ass?
Yeah.
That was when he knew he was leaving.
Oh, boy.
Because Vince apparently wanted to make sure it wasn't a comedy thing. You know, it's such good stuff, so well written, and it's going to get him a ton of heat. And John was like, you know, it was the last time I'm going to tell Vince that if that's what he wants on the show, you know, I'll give him a best effort. And then, of course, there was another little tease about Reigns' leukemia, and Vince tried to talk him to saying more about it, and John refused to, and Vince said, that's fine if you feel uncomfortable with it. And, you know, he called it the worst line and wouldn't even say it on the podcast because of how bad it was. So whatever the line was that was supposed to be referenced, we may never know. It was that. Moxley felt that. He to this day, he still feels that unhappy with it. And he describes it as the type of thing when somebody would have had to have been fired, aka him, and WWE could have lost sponsors if it made air. This is Vince for you, everybody. When he returned after injury, he wanted to go back to wrestling, but not in WWE. There's a whole load of other things. It's Jericho's most listened to podcast ever. Which broke records after only about 10 hours of being published, so it got quickly. I've got a feeling that's what was happening when the Talk is Jericho podcast was supposed to be happening on the stage at StarCast. So, you know, I forgive him for that now. quote, even though it's part of the gimmick. The really surprising thing is the video thing that released when his contract was up was actually produced by retired wrestler sick Nick Mondo. What we've established is Nick Mondo not only is a good deathmatch wrestler, but also knows how to put a good video package together.
That he does. That he does.
The big stuff, though, for Moxley, though, I'd argue, that's broken over the past few days. He's facing Juice Robinson in New Japan at the Best of the Super Junior finals next Wednesday, which will be airing on Access TV's broadcast a week tomorrow, Friday the 7th, is it?
I believe
Friday
so.
the 7th of June. Friday the 7th of June. There are rumors. There's a lot of rumors circulating that Moxley's going to be in the G1 Climax against like the big names, maybe like Okada or Ibushi or Tanahashi or Naito, which could be very or Suzuki. Oh no! And yeah, we already know his debut match will be at the Fyter Fest show, which I guess will be on Twitch because the last one was. He'll be facing Joey Janela, which could be an interesting little fight. Other matches got announced, but I guess we'll talk about them over the upcoming weeks and whatever, because we've only got about 20 minutes to quickly brush through what was, all in all, lackluster WWE. Lackluster.
On Raw this week, we would go without a match until 56 minutes into the first hour. Now, I understand it's supposed to be a mixture of entertainment, but to go 56 minutes into the first hour of a 3-hour program, to me, is a mistake. In the opening segment, Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston called out Brock Lesnar because it was advertised since last week that Lesnar and Paul Heyman, would reveal just who Lesnar was going to cash in on. So out came Lesnar with a new shirt that said Brock Party on it, and the Money in the Bank briefcase was remade into a makeshift stereo, and Lesnar came out dancing. I don't know why either. Rollins would storm off, ruining the Brock Party, and we would have to wait until later to find out just who Lesnar was going to cash in on. Now, with Kofi being left alone, you were almost anticipating when Dolph Ziggler was going to jump him, which is what he did until Xavier Woods came out to make the save. As Kofi was being helped to the back, Ziggler would jump him again until Woods confronted him, and the fight was on all over the arena until it came back to the ringside area where Ziggler was going to finish off Woods in the same fashion as he did to Kofi this past week on SmackDown. Then out would come Kofi with another chair to make the save for Woods. Dolph would once again cut a promo for their match for the WWE Championship at Super Showdown. Following that was a vignette for the Randy Orton Triple H match, cause reasons. Then we would see the backstage, the Usos throwing a Memorial Day block party. That is basically what the first hour of Monday Night Raw was. Again.
Well, no, because then we had the start of Shane.
Well, at the bottom of the first hour, leading into the second hour, it was Shane McMahon taking on someone named Lance Anoa'i, with Drew McIntyre in his corner. However, before the match could happen, McIntyre beat down Anoa'i. Yeah, exactly, Chris. Chris in the chat says Brock Party. That's what it said on the shirt. Well, anyway, McIntyre gave Shane the unfair advantage. This was all just basically a shot on Roman Reigns being part of what is called the Samoan Dynasty, and Shane wanting to prove that his family was better than Samoan Dynasty. Shane would lock on a triangle submission on Lance, forcing him to tap out, and then after the match, Shane and McIntyre would continue to beat down until Reigns came out to make the save for Anoa'i. Ash, has there been any further information as to who Lance Anoa'i is?
Yeah, Lance Anoa'i.
Anoa'i. I'm sorry for mispronouncing. I am a redneck from Louisiana.
It actually is Reigns' cousin that wrestles as Lance Anoa'i. Because, family. Oh, look, Hobbs and Shaw's coming out in August. We're going to have Dwayne in. Hey, you are, Dwayne. You going to Toronto, Dwayne?
Brock Lesnar and Paul
Right.
Heyman would once then go out there, teasing that they're about to reveal who Lesnar was going to cash in on until Seth Rollins came out, and they actually let Lesnar cut a promo himself on the mic, saying that he had a whole year to wait to cash in, and that Rollins could go screw himself, and left. It would also be revealed that in a Fatal 4-Way elimination match, the winner would go on to face Rollins at Super Showdown for the Universal Championship, which basically made Lesnar's Money in the Bank decision kind of pointless, because if they were going to do a number one contenders match, regardless of Lesnar's decision, what was the point of having the decision in the first place? AJ Styles was scheduled to be one of the participants until he was jumped by Baron Corbin during one of his promos backstage. Styles would then be taken out of the match and replaced with Baron Corbin, and the other participants were The Miz, Braun Strowman, and Bobby Lashley. We'll talk about that debacle of a match when we get to it. Up next, it was Becky Lynch and Nikki Cross taking on the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, the Iconics. Which championship is more irrelevant in WWE today? The Women's Tag Team Championship or the 24/7 Championship? We'll talk about that a little bit later. Think about that while we also talk about this. The majority of this match was Nikki taking the heat from both members of the Iconics until she made the hot tag to Becky, which led to the finish of the match being Becky hitting a Uranagi slam on Peyton Royce to pick up the win. So now with 2 wins over the champions in a non-title match, does this put Becky and Nikki in line for a championship match? In the past, when someone went over on a champion in a non-title match, regardless of what championship it was, that person skyrocketed to being the number one contender for that championship. So using that logic, can we safely say, Ashley, right now, are Becky and Nikki the current number one contenders for the Women's Tag Team Championships?
No, because the Iconics have lost every single match they've had. So, lol.
Back at the Memorial Day block party, the Revival showed up, and it was revealed that Naomi invited them and wanted them to squash their beef and have fun at the party. Time filler, anyone? For the umpteenth time.
Tamina.
Oh, Tamina was there
Don't
too.
forget Tamina.
But she is quite forgettable. But anyway, for the umpteenth time, it was the one and only Ricochet taking on the Swiss Cyborg Cesaro. Now, you would think with these two going at it once again that the chemistry of this match would get rather stagnant and stale. However, I was gladly disproven, even though at the start of the match I would say was rather bland. But I can look past that because some of the things that were done in the match were really executed to perfection, which made for a really good match. Including the finish of the match, which probably was one of the best parts in the entire match in itself. Cesaro was dazed by the ropes. Ricochet somehow, from the outside, would flip up onto Cesaro's shoulders in the electric chair position. He would then flip around, connected with a Rey Mysterio WCW-like Hurricane Rana, dumping Cesaro on the back of his neck and picked up the win. I have to say, slow start, but strong finish. I have to say, I liked it. Then after the match, it was announced that at Money in the Bank, Rey Mysterio, who won the United States Championship that night, also suffered a separated shoulder and would be out for several weeks, so he would be there on Raw next week to surrender the championship, which brought out the former champion, Samoa Joe, who said he'll gladly accept what he felt was rightly his. Up next, it was...
The only problem there,
Go ahead.
I would say, is didn't they say they were doing that last week?
Yeah, they were supposed to.
Why are we doing it? So who knows?
Up next, it was the Fatal 4-Way elimination match with Lashley, Corbin, Miz, and Strowman, with the winner becoming the new number one contender for the Universal Championship.
We need to mention the promos, because Miz is like,
Me
and Maurice are having a baby girl, and then Braun Strowman,
Congratulations to Miz on the
I'm going to tear up Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin. And Miz, I want to congratulate you on the reveal of your new child. It's like, what?
I was wondering about that myself.
This menacing guy that's like, I like candy floss. Like, what? Why he couldn't just do it like saying Miz, like tone it down and say Miz, I want to congratulate on your kid. But he was doing it in the shouting voice, like, where's the volume knob? Turn it down.
Well, anyway, beyond that, the main premise of this match, other than it being a number one contenders match, is that it was an elimination match. So was it worked as an elimination match? No. No matter what kind of spin WWE puts on it, it was not worked as an elimination match. Here's the breakdown. The majority of the match was Lashley and Corbin working as a tag team, taking out Miz and Strowman, with both of them getting in their spots at certain points of the match. However, the finish went down like this. First, Strowman and Lashley would end up fighting in the crowd and made their way all the way to the back. Corbin would then hit the end of days on Miz for the pin, and then WWE would say that due to Strowman and Lashley going all the way to the back, they were considered out of the match. Keep in mind that there are no countouts and no disqualifications in a fatal four-way match. So the way I perceive this, it feels like WWE made a last-minute decision and forgot that they advertised the match as an elimination-style match. Also, now Corbin is in the Universal Championship match at Super Showdown. So the question now becomes, with as much hate as Corbin has right now, will the conventional WWE fan today have any reason to care about the match come Super Showdown? The correct answer is...
Why should they care?
Yeah.
Why should they care? It's Saudi! It's only being done to care for Saudi! Speaking of...
Wait, hold on. We do have a new follower on the Twitch channel, on twitch.tv/stackup.org. SuperMeme911. Thank you for following StackUp. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're having a fantastic day.
Keep in mind, Undertaker will be on Raw next week. Not for anything special. It's because they're in Austin, Texas, and they need to hype up Saudi. Then we can actually get hype.
Go ahead.
Firefly Funhouse.
Oh.
Forget the block party and R-Truth being there, and then there was a fight, and then there was a food fight, because it's always bloody happened.
Mm-hmm.
Screw that stuff. Firefly Funhouse, one of the good bits of the show. You know, his new mask on a paper plate. And then Abby shows up saying that you're a bully. I'm sick of being stuck in limbo. And Ray, dressed as a doctor and said, oh, my diagnosis is you're a bully. And then as soon as limbo was triggered, these two bored, depressed-looking kids with a stick in the air, and Bray does a spider walk underneath it, just says,
let me in.
All I need you to do is let me in. It's just like, yay! Yay! I actually feel like a 5-year-old. I'm just clapping and going, yay!
Very quickly, Crispy Raps in the chat says, if you have time, I have a question. What was your favorite match at Double or Nothing? And I think probably hands down from what I've seen, and I don't know if Ashley will agree, but I think he might put it along the same vein as Cody and Dustin Rhodes. That was a really, really well-worked match.
Because of the storyline you had with it probably had more impact. Speaking of storylines, ladies and gentlemen, the new next worst segment that you've ever seen in WWE, once again, somehow involving Corey Graves, he's cursed. The Electric Jack!
This was a segment where the fans were allowed to ask questions to Sami Zayn. Now, some of these questions were some of the cringiest questions I've ever heard. And I kind of voiced my disapproval of that on my Twitch channel during that commentary coverage of Raw. But here's the big takeaway from this segment. Zayn would call out the fans for asking such terrible questions, even saying, why didn't any of the fans ask him about AEW? And it was at this point that Vince soiled his Depends undergarments. Zayn did get the pop he was looking for, and one has to wonder how many pops he got from Vince once Raw was over. Zayn would go on to make comments about Rollins and the Universal Championship, which led to Rollins coming out, which made the main event of Raw this week being Zayn and Rollins, which makes for a damn good main event on any pay-per-view show or any Raw, to be honest. Match was kind of back and forth until Rollins hit his second suicide dive, where it appeared that he jarred his knee, which became the target of Zayn's attack for the rest of the match. However, it was not to be for the man formerly known as the Underdog from the Underground, as Rollins was able to connect with the stomp to pick up the win. Now, the main event was a solid match, but was it enough to save the show this week? If this was WWE's response to AEW becoming their next big competition, then this was a very poor response. Because even though there were some bright points to the show that were worth watching, it did not outweigh the bad points of the show. The biggest one being not having a match until 56 minutes into the first hour of the show. Overall score of Raw this week gets a 2 out of 5, with best match of the night going to the main event, and the worst match of the night going to the Fatal 4-Way elimination match, not being worked as an elimination match. Now also keep in mind, for a 3-hour program, there were only 5 matches. Just saying. So, on to SmackDown Live, and what a shocker! We actually started with the match, with Kevin Owens and Kofi Kingston.
Starting with promo.
Well, I was going to mention that we did get a promo from them. First off, it was Owens proclaiming that he was innocent, saying that he did not attack Big E backstage last week, and that he was a good person. Kofi would then respond by calling Owens a liar and proclaiming that he was lying about his innocence, and that he was also lying to himself, saying that he wasn't going to soften him up for Dolph, that Kofi was going to take him down regardless of what happened to him on Raw the previous night.
Keep in mind as well, they advertised they're going to do a Kevin Owens show talk thing with Dolph Ziggler, which the storyline was the people in Oklahoma don't deserve it. Secretly, I'm thinking, we can't do any more talking, guys. They don't like it.
Now, was this match as good as their match from Money in the Bank? I think so.
No.
What, really?
No, because they put it on television rather than pay-per-view. It was still good, don't get me wrong. It was probably on the same level, I'd say. But, you know, because they're giving it a 3 on USA, there's going to be nothing spectacular. But it was still good.
Yep, the finish in the match was Kofi hitting the Trouble in Paradise and Owens to pick up the win. I gotta say, good solid start to the show. Up next, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Daniel Bryan and Rowan, were out there explaining why they were the Planet's Tag Team Champions. One then has to wonder if Hemp and Wooden Tag Team Championship belts are coming, and then began to make remarks that the tag team division on SmackDown Live was a joke, and that no one was worthy enough to challenge them. So here comes Heavy Machinery, who are now being introduced as Tucker and Otis, so apparently their last names have way bye-bye. Also, was Otis going through some sort of a seizure during the promo because he jiggled and wiggled when he got into the ring? And I didn't need to see that. But anyway, Bryan and Rowan said they're ready to accept the challenge, but not that night. You would think Super Showdown, but I think Bryan is one of the superstars that is not going to Saudi Arabia for that show.
Stomping ground. Oh, take the belts off him in Tacoma, Washington, because, you know, it's Daniel Bryan's home state. Up
next, it was Mandy Rose taking on Carmella, who's been helping R-Truth hide so he can keep the 24/7 championship longer. As for women's matches, go for
Keep in mind as well, Sonya and Mandy dishing out Muscle and Fitness Hers magazines to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Well, because Mandy was on the cover.
Including Ember Moon, who was reading Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yep.
For some reason.
So, in this match, Mandy was able to roll up Carmella after a distraction by Sonya to pick up the win. Up next, it was time for the Shane McMahon Appreciation Celebration. He debuted a tribute video to himself and what he's done throughout his career up until this point, and would proclaim that at Super Showdown he was going to teach Roman Reigns a lesson, which I guess inspired Elias into a song he was singing until he was interrupted by a scurrying 24/7 champion R-Truth, who fended off Drake Maverick by pinning him to retain the championship, began celebrating, and then realized he was in trouble and got beat down by McIntyre and Elias, which led Elias to pinning R-Truth to win the 24/7 championship. Shane would then get an idea for the main event, suspended the rules for the 24/7 championship until the end of the main event, which was a tag team match with the new champion Elias and McIntyre taking on R-Truth and Roman Reigns. Up next, it was the SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley taking on Lacey Evans with Charlotte Flair on commentary. Over the past few weeks, it appeared that Evans and Flair have developed a partnership of some sort, so I understand why they had Charlotte on commentary for this match. However, when this match built to the outside, it led to a face-to-face confrontation with Bayley and Charlotte. Bayley would then throw Evans into the ring and shoved Charlotte, which set her off, and got up on the ring apron, which distracted the referee while Evans had Bayley pinned. However, Bayley reversed it into a roll-up of her own to pick up the win. After the match, Lacey would then blame and attack Charlotte Flair, so it stands to reason that their partnership has dissolved, while Bayley watched with a smile from the stage. Up next, and we're trying to hurry this along because we are rapidly running out of time. Up next, it was Roman Reigns and R-Truth taking on Elias and Drew McIntyre. Overall, very good match. One key thing to take from here, Reigns did get his hands on Shane, but McIntyre tried to intervene with a Claymore kick. Reigns moved out of the way, and McIntyre landed on the announcer's table back first. The finish of the match was Reigns hitting the spear on Elias to pick up the win for his team. However, then the rules then kicked back in for the 24/7 championship. Reigns would then spear Elias once again, but instead of pinning him himself, he implored R-Truth to pin Elias, which he did, winning the title back, and R-Truth is now a two-time 24/7 champion.
So the guy that could have had the belt to sort of make you warrant and actually care about it decided to let R-Truth get the belt back.
Yep.
Great booking, WWE. I get what you were trying to do because Roman's the good guy and whatever, but surely if you wanted people to care about the 24/7 rule and to sort of have the whole storyline of him being the face being constantly pursued by Shane and his goons and whatever, it would have made sense to him to have it. But there you go. WWE, making no sense. Same as old, same as it ever was.
Also, we need more Kabuki Warriors in my life. But anyway, guys, that is going to conclude WrestleDOWN, the discussion of wrestling now. Thank you to everyone who joined us here on the Stack Up channel. And if you guys want to see more, we're live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time right here on StackUp.org on Twitch. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube.com/WrestleGamer. So with that being said, for the Studley Man, Ashley, and for Miss Kitty, I am your friendly neighborhood WrestleGamer, reminding all of you guys out there to just stay awesome. Bye, guys!
Shut it down. Shut it down.